And we're back for part 3, okay, of DM8. Beth, take it away.
So I put up the brand gap, which I tucked away in one of our modules in Canvas because it's kind of a famous book. And I don't know, probably accessibility factors are being challenged at this point. I don't know. But this is a great book. And so it's about branding. And we'll get back to just 5 disciplines of building your brand. And so this is a famous piece. Brand. That's not a brand, it's a branding guide. So what isn't and what isn't a brand? So that's tucked away in your fold in Canvas for you to look at. And so that's been around for a while, but it's a famous piece. And then I wanted to show you my favorite film festival logo is the San Cruz Film Festival. That's my favorite one. I mean, San Francisco Film Festival, the longest running film festival in the country, I think. So closed path. All right. So I like that background. So another thing I really enjoy is abstract scribbles. This one feels like this. It's got the tree, but also if I look at it, glance at it, this is also got mountains coming off this side, and you've got a valley in here. All kinds of things are going on with that for me. But I do like to do this kind of sketching, so that looks really that's speaking to me. So for illustration, yes, of course you'd want to have illustration, and this typeface is pretty readable for the sans serifs, but again, just go down a little smaller in the typeface so you have more leading. Not much, not too much, but just a little, and it does make a difference in readability. Your eye flows a little bit more easily. So this came out really, really nice. It is a painting. So well, I'm not going to read it right now. I'm going to read it later. But this, just having the name like this and this up here, really nice white face that then the rag on the right feels like part of the painting, so that so both kinds of marks are working together. So the printed letter marks and this whole thing is definitely part of the whole piece for me, the way it goes around the end there. Beautiful page. But again, experiment with more leading, just a tiny bit more leading, and see what you think. Okay. And I'm not sure this one is in Word. You can see what. So this is a nice clean piece. Word works too, but it's for a single page. So the assignment is that everything needs to be laid out and composed on a single page, the regular 8.5 by 11 page, so that you have to think about how you're going to compose something. Also, strengthening the alignments would be good. So this is the most important part, is your name. And so coming up here a ways and giving it some air below it and making it bigger. And you can, as we were seeing with some of the sites I looked at, like the Design.io, very thin type but larger might be a way to go to achieve that. Also, this is good leading here. The line lengths are really long, so I would, for contrast on a page like this, the type is the thing that you see. The margins are the things that keep, create the contrast because they're white and open. And so if this left margin was maybe right there where your name is, and this was all white down here, and this was maybe higher with maybe a lot of air underneath it, so that the name is surrounded by white, so that it's the star of the page, and making it look stronger than perhaps the title in the class name. Yeah. So that would be a way of working that into it. And then having, so you'd have to go probably smaller on the type for the 8.5 by 11 page to make it work with borders on both sides. But it needs more air. I think that this font is really nice and serviceable. Sans serif, and as I say, the leading's good. You could come down with both the leading and the size for this one, and give yourself some margins. So because it would be viewed on a piece of paper. So if this was viewed in another context, it might flow and the lines would break wherever they break, but that would be something that you'd want to plan for narrower alignment. And whenever there's this little thing under here, it's suggesting to you that that word is maybe not spelled right. So I think multimedia is all one word now. John, you're the guy who knows all that stuff. Is multimedia all one word, right?
You know, I would probably make it one word. The trend is that when you have a made up word like multimedia, at first it's hyphenated, and then over time, as it becomes in common usage, then you take the hyphen away. So at this point, I would say multimedia is one word.
I think if you look it up, you see it one word. So I would look that up. So if I see one of these that the spell checker has marked, and I'm pretty sure I did it right, then I'll go and check it. So you want to do that. So generally, this needs more space around it and more giving your name more of a starring role. Okay. Nice. So this is taking advantage of our edge. This adds another component of you know, it just makes it feel well contained. So this is working out really well too. I would probably go a little bit lighter on these lines here. They do work pretty well. It's an unusual layout, but I feel like this contrast, these two contrasts are too close to each other in terms of, I know that this is much wider, but I would just try making these a thinner line and maybe a lighter yellow so that they recede just a little bit. I like that it's an interesting layout because it kind of reminds me of using the using cards to think about how things are arranged on a page or online. There's units of information, so it has a little bit of that quality. I would like, if you start off with initial caps for headings, for the words in the heading, be consistent with all of the words M and the D and the O and the I, because they're all titles and they should be consistently capitalized. So that's something to think about. And right in here, there's an interesting thing going on with this number that is very attractive. So those kinds of details can add to, oh, I've got a little lost mosquito hawk in here. I won't go, I won't take it outside right now. Okay, I'll keep going. So I do like the type, weight, style, leading on that. So that's working out really well. And I like the way the numerals are with the, I'm not sure whether that's soft, but this very nice looking numerals with the caps. And the illustration. So this is one of the pieces that is part of the, is indicated as part of this, that is done in a variety of different ways. So this has a nice little creativity lab set up here. So you want to make sure that when you do those, that they're all your own drawing. If it's your own drawing, then that's great. But if it's not, then what you want to do is to because part of what you're doing is promoting. So there's all kinds of tough illustrations and things over here that are part of what you do that you want to show off. So that's one of your drawings, and that's great. It's interesting, the contrast here is really nice between this sort of rounded sans serif and the serif. Really nice. That's really beautiful. So for this one, we have a very deep indent on the first line. And I think you can all see why I probably like it there better than I would like it all the way to the edge. Is anybody seeing what I'm seeing? And you look, I'm going to get my little cursor out of this. It's kind of important for me now that I see that this goes right here like that. It's the eyes. I think it would be blunt and kind of, so now I've told you that you always don't end in the first paragraph. And so in this case, though, I'm feeling like because of the way this flows around here, there's something about this being rounded like that that makes a difference. And I think I'm seeing maybe this looks like it could be a misspelling of rebranding or rebraining. I think I want it to be a new word. I want it a new word. Can we have a new word today? Rebraining. It's like thinking something over again. I kind of like that idea. I think we can coin it. I think it's supposed to be rebranding without the D, but it could be an I in
Probably
there.
just a typo, yeah.
Well, it's a typo, but it's an opportunity for a new word, John.
That could be. I need a new brain, yeah.
I want a rebranding. What are you here for? I'm here for my rebranding. Yeah. Okay. So we played with that enough. But this whole page has a simplicity and a kind of lyric quality that is really working. The type might be, well, I don't know. Given how much it is, I think that it couldn't be. It looks like it's probably about 12 point, but not smaller. So this one has a little extra apostrophe there. And John, you're going to have to confirm this with me, but commas go inside quotes, right?
What goes inside quotes?
Commas and periods go inside quotes, right?
Yes, generally speaking, they unless they're yes. And sometimes in British English you can put things like periods outside the quotes, but in American English, yeah, they should
Our English,
generally be
no.
within the
And also,
quotes.
this would be a period here because the new sentence is starting, I think. So just
Yeah.
working on the punctuation and then capitalizing Cabrillo, those kinds of things. But this layout has a lot of style and charm at the same time, and I do want rebranding to be considered for adoption. And I think that these are those are both one for Daniela. And okay. So it looks like it's very clearly fish. It's got a good. I even though this has a liveliness and a kind of a oh, it's got an attitude thing going on right here, which is I think I've seen this picture before. Uh, I would work on any kind of alignments. And right here, you've got uh, a alignment on the bottom of this text. And I kind of would want this strong bottom that's closest by to be up just a little tiny bit to align with that. But there may be another reason to have this stepping down and echoing something like that. So that's just a thought. But the type's pretty easy to read. I think that it's probably a good size. It looks like it could have a, a beginning drop cap of, like this L for an I right there. But it might be too much there, pulling your eye over there. So this has got this kind of rambunctious look and feel that it also is fine for it to be conventionally typeset. And this way, this is working really well. So this space here feels like it's right. This one maybe just up a little bit. And this being what it is, I would actually align it to the edge of the image and the edge of the type up here so that it's not creating an indent there. I would look at that. So when you've got a publication like this where you have um, lots of captions, lots of type like that, uh, next to something, you want to, I think you want consistency with that alignment there. And this is definitely got, the attitude comes across, but there's also a readable conventionality of it. And I just would want this not to be indented and to be more aligned to what's closest to it. All right. Wow. And I think ah, like a breath of fresh air. Okay. So I would probably do the same thing I was talking about. This one has this interesting thing going on too. In this case, I would probably indent the first one and not indent either one of these, just so that this became kind of a star that was linking up with this kind of flow right here. And
Okay.
and then when we close this right here, then it doesn't interrupt this. It's not, this space is competing with this one. And normally I would say in conventional typesetting, I would close this one up and make this one smaller. But there is a personality on this page that is because of modes and deliverables. And your name down at the bottom on the right. It has it is like, you can almost see the arrow that's happening, the arrow right here. And so I think it would be emphasized if these were closed and this was kind of reinforcing that. It could even be in farther.
Okay.
Just play with that. But see what happens if you close these and indent this one even farther. It would be an unconventional thing, but it's an unconventional page right now. So, but I do like the, this is where I want my ruler. I do like this and this, and this is reinforcing that. It's not anything, that's not any kind of standard typography, but it's what the page wants. I think that's what you probably would do. So try it out.
Hey, Beth, I have a question for you on this one.
Got a really nice look to it.
I have a question for you on this one, Beth.
Yeah.
I like the simplicity of the page a lot. I'm looking at it and my eye kind of sees that there could be an axis right kind of down the middle, which is the right of the text and the left of the headline. What do you think it would look like if the credit at the bottom were moved to line up with that axis?
I would try that.
So that it was under the modes and deliverables, you know, so because I'm visualizing an axis going right down that, and then I would see that you could move the credit over to the left and kind of have it to the left of that axis point, kind of like the headline is. What do you think about that idea?
You're thinking about the name being here, right?
Well, no, just take the name where it is at the bottom of the page and move it to the left so that it,
yeah,
move it to the left so that it lines up with what I'm seeing as an axis kind of down the page.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, just something I might try.
Well, I was looking at the arrow.
I mean, I don't know.
You guys can't see my cursor, right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. So
We can see you moving the cursor.
Yes. Because there within the type, there's something there.
Oh, I see. You like that. You're going like that. The 45-degree
Yeah,
angle.
yeah,
Okay.
it feels
Yeah.
like there's something active in there for me.
It's got, anyway, I like the simplicity of the page.
Yeah, I do too. Now, I will be looking for the three points that you're making too. So that is also something that the content is part of it as well. Okay. So we do have, now that we know that we can just get at that stuff like anything, that's really nice to know. And so the next thing that we're looking at is, and there was a question last week, dashboard here. The next thing we're looking at is and you can see when we get into our modules here that now look at the filthy stuff and so we've got the Batia survey. Please everybody remember to do that. And we have and I'll be looking at the discussions later on too. So we have our discussion one, I'll be going in and grading later. For our project two, we have we're getting into brand land and thinking about identity ideas, and we have some pieces that just show that. And last week there was a question about what does the final project look like? Do you have an example of that? Well, I think my examples of the final project are in my office on campus. And they must be. I've looked everywhere, and I'm not allowed in my office on campus. So I did find one thing. They were also physical in that they were folded paper in various ways. Hoping to find one of those, but in place of that, I did find several patterns that are online that we use. So one of the students got her whole portfolio, her cover letter and her resume and examples on one tabloid size double-sided colored page that we printed out in the lab. Then it all folded up really beautifully into a portfolio. And there are several of those online. There's also one that Amanda did using the elements that she created for her logo, and she used an adhesive cut material and glued it to, or pressed it onto an ivory colored stock that became a heavy paper portfolio. So in reading this, you're deciding on, what kind of look you want as far as your brand and experimenting with that possibility of logos. And there's not finishing your logo here, but experimenting and trying things, thinking about applying your business identity ideas that sort of emerged in project one to, I hope, to some extent. I was seeing that happening. And in InDesign or Illustrator, you can create a page of each set of the three design ways you've developed. So arrange the three pieces on each page to create an informative configuration, symmetrical, casual, deliberately aligned, and so on, that seems right for the components and mood. A goofy, sophisticated, classic, sporty, or other ways that may occur to you. You want to create a page besides rectangular, vertical, or horizontal. You could try that. set up a photo to show how it would look in a typical situation. So if it was an odd size page, then that might not work as a PDF. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So you're the client yourself in this case, and finding out what appeals to you is going to be important. And it's an exploration, so we're just at the beginning. We're on the pre-Bunny Hill. We're just not really close to finished. So you would be looking at what you were feeling in your project one, and kind of following up on that. So like last week throughout the project, use your typography and design skills to create interesting, informative page layouts. You develop visual experiences for yourself and others. Be conscious of margins, line length, alignment. So all of those things that we were talking about, type choices, hierarchy, for design principles, and more, and an appropriate look and feel for each page. So you're getting to experiment with 3 ways of interpreting what you started thinking about in project 1, and kind of continuing from there. So you're going down to here. And this is where the brand gap is, so that you can take a look at it here and read it. And let's see, yeah, I'm going to scroll right here. So it's a book, and I'm not going to show it all because you're going to be the ones who are reading it. So that's in there, and I hope I don't get busted for putting a book like that in Canvas, because I don't know if it works with a reader or not. I guess I'll just apologize later.
I think it works okay.
Okay. But I just, this is sort of a famous piece, and I wanted you all to be aware of it and take a look at it. And it gives you some ideas. So right here, we've got one of the pages, and this is showing kind of 3 looks on one page, and this may have been it. So some people did them on 3 pages, but if you find a way of doing it this way, for this one, one of the things, again, titling. So if you have a really strong title and you have a cap here, then you have a cap there. So these are these caps, caps and caps. So these are 3 logo color options that she's talking about there. So, oops, get that in here. Yeah.
So Beth, we have about 15 minutes left. So just
Okay.
time check.
So I'm going to go in there. This one goes out. Well, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Right next down here. Yeah, they're just a little stubborn. So this was one. It ended up being the project that was on the tabloid side. So she carried the Bauhaus color idea through, and these were her three marks, choices of different branding styles. But the final project was done on a piece of tabloid size paper, and printed front and back, folded up so that it folded like a booklet, and a gatefold, and so these various elements in the in her work appeared. So the resume, the cover letter, and those sorts of things. And this was her colorway that she was exploring. Very Bauhausy revival time there. Okay, well, this ended up being not anything like what she did in the end, but these were the three, but she did hers this way, 3 pages, 3 options. That's kind of how it was written, is like this, but others did it, put things on one page, interpreted it that way. So these were the 3 options, and these look like real similar colorways here. And I will show you the end one so you can get an idea of how different your thinking can be at this point from 4 weeks from now, whatever it is that where you'll be working on your final. You can change your mind pretty radically. Okay, so these are more logo resources in here. They're Jessica Hish talking about logo design, and so these are for your use to perhaps use in your discussion, talk about in your discussion. And I'm going to go down to way down. I don't have this written yet, but right here, what we were looking at with all of those greens and so forth, this is the look that Amanda ended up with. So these letters right here were cut out of a kind of an adhesive foil material. So she cut all of those letters out, and then it adhered it and rubbed it all down onto a piece of thick kind of ivory board, and these were a sort of a purplish tone, and that was what ended up being, from those other things that were completely different in project 2, this is what she ended up with. And so that mark became the she has her hair is a sort of a purple color that she's pretty consistent with, and so the logo, the AAH, was kind of that color, kind of a purple color, part of her brand. Like, yeah, so sort of a purplish. There you go. So this was just very large and adhered to the outside of the portfolio, and so this look and feel is the front and the back of her card. And yeah, so that came out. That's a final project minus the case. So you get a sense of the pieces that you're going to be settling on and putting together. This is one of the projects, is to do some pricing, and we'll be talking about the resume cover letter next week. So we're going to the adventure of deciding on our mark or logo sort of piece for next week. And three versions of it. And so one person did the same thing with three colors, another did 3 pages, so that they're interpreted a little bit differently. And that's to be expected since you're all creative artists who are entitled to your own design way. But just as long as you cover the topic as stated and have something to work with. So the goal is to, at this point, have enough to work with so that you can go on to the next step and keep building what is going to be ultimately a portfolio. And along the way, given the way things are now and how people talk about portfolios, some of the when you look at one of the videos on how you should how your portfolio should look, there's a lot more emphasis on limiting, simplifying, and now that we would not be in a condition even at the end of the semester where we could go in person and show our portfolio. So our portfolio would have to be virtual. And so thinking in those terms is really different from how it was last year. So those are all part of what you might be considering. If you, what I've been doing is looking at places, agencies, and trying to see how they're representing their designers or their the people they're trying to promote and what they're asking for. So part of the class I think should be finding out what realistically people are doing at this point to submit their portfolios and in what format and how, if they want it to be unusual and catchy and that kind of thing, how you would do that. What I'm seeing are these kind of small booklets that fold up, or you can see the different faces of them, so in real life they could fold up, and something along those lines that's unusual, it's virtual, maybe a book like Brand Gap's book, so something that would be unique and representative in the current state of things, rather by the, if you were going to apply for something at the end of the semester, I would want to look around and see what people out there are expecting, given the kind of work you would like to do, and sort of gear your portfolio to that a realistic situation that we've got. So it puts a different spin on the original instructions, which were written before we were all shut in. So yeah, so that, and then giving people enough to go on in the discussion so that you can make discoveries and realizations while you're discussing something. Very often you just never know when the idea is going to hit you, and be ready with whatever it is you use to sketch on or catch those ideas so that you can hang on to them and work them into a project or into your design for yourself. So, and coming up, you'll have there's a resume template and things like that that we'll be looking at. That that's another topic, resumes. In the videos that are showing, some people say keep your resume really simple. Don't try to get into super designing with your resume. Just keep it informative and put all of your creative energy into the kinds of things that will grab their attention and make them sit up, take notice. So those are different opinions that you run across along the way, and if they're coming from a professional source, you can pay attention to those. But then again, we're in a really different time, so that a lot of the things that we used to take for granted are going to be different. So I think we looking at ways to work online, present online, in any way you can is a good idea. So, John, next semester is what, DM50? What we've got DM5 online next semester for people who are involved in design and creating and creating a kind of portfolio in that class. And then your class is the WordPress class, right?
Which class are you asking
I'm
about?
talking about next semester, what these folks can do, because we need to follow up in some mode or format that's not just paper. And so
Yeah, it's looking increasingly like next semester will be all online, but it's still unclear.
now the course that you're teaching,
Which course?
either one,
60?
60.
I think I'm teaching 60, 56, and 57. And I think they're all scheduled to be online either way.
Yes, they're all online, but they're also teaching people to do work online that would it would be a good idea to have that skill. So being able to,
Of course.
yeah. So it's really,
John, what's
yeah.
56 and 57?
DM56 is WordPress. It's an 8-week online course for the first half of the semester. And DM57 is social media and promotion. And that's the second
Promotion.
8 weeks.
So those two courses are ideal for this class to continue to learn to almost immediately learn to be in a space you may already know. You may already have a site or something like that. But for those of you who don't, those two classes will get you to a place where you can get your work online.
That's right.
And so is 60 required for 56?
No, it is not, because 56 doesn't require any coding.
No, I mean WordPress, is it?
No, because WordPress doesn't require any coding, and neither does the social media class. So DM60 is recommended but not required for those.
A lot of people are using WordPress. There are a whole lot of tools. Fewer and fewer are using Dreamweaver.
Yes, and our whole Cabrillo website is going to shift to WordPress right now.
Yeah, so the whole environment is WordPress. So having WordPress skills is pretty important. And if you could convert what you work on and build in this class now, you could adapt it in WordPress to an online presence. So that seems to be a really good next step. So as we work through DM8, we'll be looking at those opportunities as your designs build and your personality starts to form in a well, not tangible way, but a visual way. Then think about going into WordPress and so that you can get your work online, your portfolio.
Yeah, it looks like we're out of time. Looks like this is a pretty logical place to kind of wrap it up.
I think I'm out of time. I'm out of steam.
Are there any final questions?
So
You can unmute yourself if you're muted.
So going on to project 2
All
the
right.
next week.
Well, I think everybody should stay safe, shelter in place,
You
wear
better
your mask in public, and don't take candy from strangers.
be
I
extra.
thought that was only on Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess any parting words, Beth? I think we're gonna end this
Well,
puppy.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next
All
week,
right.
and I'll be grading of the discussions. So get into the discussions and share things that you're finding out, and yeah, to add to your knowledge.
Okay, folks.
Okay,
Take care.
bye-bye.
Bye.